together. It worked on your schedule and so forth. It's so good
Harold.
to see you. Happy holidays to you.
Same
and
to you and
one and all
everybody
in the
out there.
audience. This is going to air during Christmas week. And welcome very, very much to Conversations. In the audience, a pleasure to welcome a dear friend of mine and of the world, and also a very real pioneer in terms of public access and alternate programming venues. And he's a musician extraordinaire and a beautiful fellow, and that'd be Jon Hammond. He'll be known to many people here in New York, although he's had a good deal out in California. John, welcome so much. It's so good to see you again,
Thanks,
my
Harold.
brother.
It's a great pleasure and big honor to be here with you on your show, Conversations, and not only that, live in the studios of MNN TV.
Yes, indeed.
Which is a big thing for me to be here. I've been, as you know, on MNN TV not as long as you, but we started over at MCTV, Manhattan Cable TV, when they were at 23rd Street, and you were on 125th Street before that even.
Well, there was. In the earliest stage of about 73 or 74, they had a studio up on 125th Street. That was teleprompter then, Irving Kahn. But I've been at it since about 1970.
I would say my hat's off to Harold because you've been keeping it going so long, you know. And
but you had that thing with the beat, with the
foot,
cowboy boot or
foot,
something, the foot going like that. And let's share with that.
Yeah, that was my gimmick.
Because you've been doing television, cable television in New York for a very long
27 years now.
All right.
Yeah.
Now talk about some of that, or just why don't you go back a little bit? Share your background.
Okay.
Born and raised a little bit.
Well, you know, I was born in Chicago.
Okay.
And both of my parents were born in Chicago, and my mother is an artistic person. She's a great artist. Oil painting is her forte, and she played the piano, and she was always into music, you know. So my father had a natural feel for music, although he went into medicine.
Okay.
So
as a doctor? Or?
Yes, he was a general practitioner, as his
good.
father was. So I always say, my father was a physician, my grandfather was a physician, and I'm a musician.
Oh, I see. Physician, musician. Yeah.
But ironically, I'm playing now in some of the same hospitals where my father practiced medicine.
Isn't that interesting?
And I play a few shows every month in hospitals and nursing home facilities.
Are they still with us or not? Your mother?
My mom is hanging in there. She's doing
still
amazing.
Painting?
Not as much as she used to, but she still has a great sense of art, and I think that got me into it at a young age. And also, you know, we had the first air conditioner on the block.
Did you?
Yeah.
I think we did too.
You
in
know,
Detroit.
And Chicago summers were very hot, you know.
They are, yeah.
So the whole neighborhood would come over to one house. The neighborhoods were very, a neighborhood was a neighborhood then.
They were neighborly, yeah.
So like before the air conditioners, we used to have these rubber pools, you know, in each front yard.
Right.
So they would send to one house one day, and then the next house the next day. And the kids would play in the pool, and then all the kids out of the pool, and then the adults get in the pool.
Yeah, right.
So when my dad put on this addition, this annex to the house, and this was the air conditioning room, you know. So the whole neighborhood would come over and stuff into this room.
Yeah.
And we had a piano in there. And we had a stereo, which I think was mono in those days. You know? It was a monophonic, you know, they used to say monophonic hi-fi.
Hi-fi.
And we used to listen to records, you know. My mother went to high school with Steve Allen and Mel Torme.
The Steve Allen?
Yeah.
Of television?
That's right.
Wow. Yeah.
So those
and
were,
Mel Torme.
And Mel
the
Torme.
Velvet Tone.
The Velvet Frog.
The Velvet Frog.
Who wrote the Christmas song, which is one of the most played
Which
Christmas.
one is that?
That's, you know, chestnuts roasting over an open fire.
That's Mel Torme.
Mel Torme
he wrote it? He didn't just sing it. He had a velvet voice.
Wrote the tune. It was covered by Nat King Cole and, you know, hundreds of other people.
Yeah, I think of Nat King Cole and Mel Torme sort of in a very melodic, beautiful,
great.
rich
It's a great tune.
baritone.
Actually, it has great jazz changes, you know.
It does, really?
Yeah, it really does. You know?
But you got interested in music early on then?
Pretty early, I did, actually. And through the... by way of the accordion, you know.
Accordion.
Yeah.
You and Lawrence Welk?
Well, you know, that's a funny thing you say about Lawrence Welk.
People probably always bring that up.
Because you know, although I used to, I especially enjoy watching the Lawrence Welk reruns. You know, they're really entertaining.
Yeah.
And I did see the Lawrence Welk show live at Harrah's in Tahoe with my family.
Really?
And we had the whole dinner show with the champagne bubbles. You know, we had a bubble machine going. You know, it'd be so. But they had a great thing. But that wasn't my thing on accordion. You know.
Right.
But the problem with the accordion, for the public relations problem that the instrument has.
Yeah,
it all goes back to Lawrence Welk, you know.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have come up with that.
No, it's okay. It's okay because it's not that way in the rest of the world, but in the USA, when people see an accordion or they even hear about accordion, of course it's used in Cajun and Zydeco music.
Absolutely.
And a lot of ethnic music and now klezmer music and all that stuff. But the thing is, when you see an accordion, people right away, they say, it's polka time, right?
Yeah, polka,
you know.
Yeah.
So I don't really do the polka thing. You got to have a couple in your back pocket just in case to keep those people quieted down. But, you know, I'm in the musicians union.
Yeah,
you know?
I know you are serious.
So
musician,
when I go on a gig, I'm being paid. I got to try to keep everybody happy.
Yeah.
But when I first got into accordion, it didn't take long before I started disobeying my music teacher and getting some blues licks, you know, and getting into some funky music, and also, of course, I was totally into rock, as everybody was into the Beatles then.
Right, yeah.
And you know, at that age, I saw the Beatles with all these adoring fans, you know, and I thought, this is the job for me.
They were good.
I wasn't the only one who had that idea.
Right,
Harold,
they were really good. The Beatles were
they were great inspiration to me.
Oh, absolutely.
They were fantastic composers. Later on, I got to meet Sir George Martin, you know, and you know, his first take on the Beatles, he thought they were a little rough around the edges. But if you talk to him today, he definitely gives them their kudos for their compositions, you know. They were really...
When did they break out? They broke out around 63?
62.
63, 63, and they were just bigger than life.
Right, and they tightened...
Ed Sullivan would put them on. It was huge.
Well, they had a tremendous campaign before they came. They had these stickers all over the place that just showed the hair mops without their faces. Remember that?
Yeah.
And it said the Beatles are coming, and nobody knew what the Beatles were even, right?
Yeah.
But in the meantime, they tightened up their band in Hamburg, Germany.
Yeah, I know,
Which
they used to have a different drummer.
They had Pete Best before, and they even had a guy before that. But the thing was, that's where they really tightened it up, you know, in Hamburg on the Reeperbahn, in St. Pauli, Hamburg, and I actually came to live there myself.
You lived in the Reeperbahn?
Yeah, and I followed in the Beatles'
Did you really?
steps.
I've been there. I was there in 1957 on the Reeperbahn.
Very vital, vital place, nonstop.
Yeah,
you know, goes around the clock.
Yeah.
And you know, the first gig I wanted to play in some of the places where the Beatles played.
Okay,
so my very first gig was in a place that used to be the Top 10 Club, where they eventually became like almost a house band. They were working a lot at the Star Club, which burnt down. So I couldn't.
Where is this, in Hamburg?
Yeah, on the Grosser Freiheit.
And you actually lived in Hamburg?
Oh yeah, I lived there.
How long? I mean, matter of
2 years of my life.
2 years? That's a
2 years of my life.
Was it a hip town or what?
Very hip.
Is it really?
You know something?
Yeah, I didn't know that.
I lived in Frankfurt. I lived in Germany for 5 years.
You did? How did that happen?
Well, I started going there. My first time, I went there in 1981.
Okay.
On a mission to get a car, you know, and I actually flew to Paris on the Concorde jet.
On the Concorde?
Yeah, which totally
changed
my life. It took 3 hours and 26 minutes.
3 hours across the Atlantic.
To get to Paris from JFK.
It used to take 3 months to get a letter from in the time of George Washington, 3 months to get a letter to London from New York.
That's right.
Things have changed physically. Well, 3 hours.
It was that changed my life to take the Concorde to Paris. It was my first trip to Europe.
Oh, really?
So I always say that was the game changer. It changed my life.
What made such a big deal? What was such a big deal?
Because now I'm supersonic.
Oh, cut it out. Oh, I see.
No, it's a true story. You know? Times two. Because it went Mach 2. You know, twice the speed of sound. So this was just thrilling. You know.
Yeah.
And it was over pretty quick, and there I was in Paris, and then I did go from there to Stuttgart. So that was my first time in Germany. But then I started going there regularly to these trade shows for
Trade
music.
shows,
Yeah,
music trade shows. What's
Yeah.
a music trade show? Show
a
me
music
out.
trade show. Going back to the Beatles again.
Yeah.
When you see the Beatles, everybody started noticing what instruments they were playing.
Well,
Everybody knows that Paul McCartney had this Hofner bass. They called it the Beatle bass.
Yeah.
And then John Lennon was known for this Rickenbacker guitar. And people started really noticing the brands of the instruments that they were playing.
Interesting. I never did, but okay.
And then Ringo played Ludwig drums.
Oh, really? Okay.
So
these are all brand names that are known to the people in the business, right?
I mean, even before the Beatles, but especially with the Beatles, the endorsement thing from the manufacturers of the instruments became a big thing because the instruments became part of the whole, persona of the band.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a whole world of endorsers, endorsements, and manufacturers, and every instrument is a different thing.
Does it make a difference, the instrument? I mean, we have in the violin the
It really does.
Stradivarius,
It really
right?
does,
Yeah.
I mean, I started out as an accordionist, but I started playing organ 7 nights a week. And
That's how you got started on the organ?
I started out on accordion.
You did.
But then I went into organ.
How does one get started on the accordion? There happened to be an accordion found in
Well,
the back
you remember
closet
in the
somewhere or something. How does
60s
somebody get to an accordion?
Well, in the 60s, Harold, the after-school thing was your parents would drop you off at. They had these studios.
Yeah.
This was a big thing nationwide.
Uh-huh.
It's not happening anymore. But they had these studios where they taught tap dancing and or accordion. So
Really?
I said, well, the tap dancing for me, that's out, because I got 2 lead feet,
Oh, really?
But the accordion interested me,
Uh-huh.
And it happened that my accordion teacher had an accordion that was a really good accordion
Okay.
that we
That's
got
interesting.
secondhand for a good deal.
Yeah, okay.
And, it's really good when you get a really quality instrument to begin with. It really makes a difference,
Uh-huh.
So here I had a quality instrument,
Right.
and I got into it right away, And, it wasn't long before I started playing and making a little bit of dough, I started playing for senior citizens luncheons, and I think my first gig, I was 10.
10 years old, yeah.
I made $25.
Oh, that was real money in
And
those
free
days.
lunch,
Yeah, and a free lunch.
Yeah, and I said, hey.
Yeah, they tell us there's no free lunch, but there is if you have an
Yeah,
accordion attached, right? Right, okay, yeah.
So
right.
then I got a bigger accordion around when I was 13 with built-in microphones, and I got my very first Fender amplifier,
Okay, you're talking into the ballpark stuff.
Yeah, I was playing. Then I was already playing in bands,
Mm-hmm.
And it sounded very much like an organ because my accordion was such a quality instrument that it didn't sound reedy. It sounded more smooth.
Okay.
And I played it like an organ,
Okay.
So, but the image, like I said, the PR problem that the instrument had goes back to Lawrence Welk.
Right. All those flouncy skirts.
Yeah, right.
All that sweet.
So, all the cats were saying, why don't you get an electric keyboard?
Yeah.
At that time there was the Dave Clark 5,
Yeah.
And the organ player, he was a stand-up organ player.
Uh-huh.
When you play a big organ, you sit down on a bench, right?
You mean like a pipe organ?
Well,
That's where you got.
when you play a classical organ
Yeah,
or even a Hammond organ, you have a bench.
Hammond organ.
And what happens? These organs get kicked around with the bands,
Right.
and the first thing that breaks is the bench, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I have a saying that I say. This is you can quote me on this, folks.
Yeah, yeah.
So that is, it's easier to find an organ without a bench than a bench without an organ.
Okay, yeah.
People always call
you
me
got
up.
that trademark.
Yeah,
do you?
people
You have
always.
that trademark?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
People always call me up and say, "Hey, Hammond, do you know where I can get an organ bench?" So I actually play standing up.
Oh, you do?
Yeah,
Okay.
I do.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And I put my foot on the pedal, and I got the idea from Dave Clark 5.
From Dave Clark 5.
Dave
they had
Clark
a
5.
dance thing in the afternoon.
They came in from England with the English invasion, and they were a tremendous band. And then the Animals had the organ. Well, so in those days, a lot of people used Hammond organs or Vox or Farfisa.
The Animals did a thing. We got to get out of this place. It became very popular.
Right.
A particular tune. Was that a good tune?
And the biggest hit was, of course, also covered by Joan Baez in 1957. It was her first single, and this was a smash hit for the Animals, and that was The House of the Rising Sun.
The House of the Rising, yeah.
With Eric Burdon, was the lead singer.
Jerry Lee Lewis used to do some things too. That was on a piano. He didn't do a chorus.
Right.
He was playing piano. Is there a sister relationship between, you got keys like kind of thing, between an organ? Well, between an accordion and a piano?
Absolutely. I always say the accordion and the organ
a keyboard instrument.
They're first cousins.
Okay, right. Okay, yeah.
So anyway, what happened, I got pressured into it. For the image thing, I had to get an electric keyboard. So my very first electric keyboard was a Wurlitzer electric piano.
Is that good? I don't know.
Actually, they're coming back now, and they pay a fortune for these things,
like an antique.
But maintenance-wise, things weren't digital then, of course, so you had to learn how to fix these things because the reeds inside would break, and they would go out of tune also, Right. So to tune it, believe it or not, you had to take solder. And melt solder onto the reeds, right?
Really?
And then file them off until you get it in tune,
the
right?
Right tune?
Yeah. And if you played it at an outdoor gig in the sun, it would make the thing go completely out of tune.
I'll be darned. Was that
so I was down there with
fragile, right?
I had stuff all over my hands all the time from working on my keyboard. And then eventually I got my very first Hammond organ when I was 18 years old. I got my very first one. I bought it from Boz Scaggs.
Oh, really?
And it was a full-blown touring organ with 2 Leslie speakers, road cases. I got flight cases in the case I ever got a gig with the Rolling Stones or something. But I had a rock band that was pretty successful in the Bay Area, and we were being looked at by Warner Brother Records.
Well, wait a minute. Now, where were you? You were out of Chicago. I hear Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
But I know you were in New York.
I skipped one thing.
You were in New York
We
for a
came
while,
to
and
the
you
Bay
were
Area.
Doing public access.
We
and
came,
you had that thing where your
Right.
foot was tapping in the boom.
That's skipping a bunch of years. But I skipped one important part was that we moved from Chicago to the Bay Area to Berkeley, California in 1957. My father drove the Rambler.
Okay, Rambler.
And I came
Nash Rambler.
I came across with my mother and a couple of my sisters on the California Zephyr.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah.
So that was 1957.
57.
And I was out in Berkeley for all the radical 60s. That was a fantastic time to be in the Bay Area.
You were there. I don't mean to pry. How old would you have been in 57? Do you have
4 years old.
4.
Yeah.
You were just 4, so you were young. And so you were there for the Summer of
Yeah,
Love 10 years after that.
I was there for...
the whole ball of wax.
I was there for the brief moment of peace, love, and all that stuff.
It was a wonderful time, if you ask me.
The spirit was fantastic. We try to keep the spirit alive. The spirit moves around.
Yeah.
Like you say, the global village,
Yeah, right.
And that part of the village seems to move around,
So you got a base out there, but it was Chicago, Berkeley.
Berkeley.
When did you get to New York? Because I think
I came here,
New York.
Oh,
and you still got
I moved east to go to Berklee College of Music, which is spelled Berklee. So I went actually from Berkeley, Berkeley, from that Berkeley to the other Berkeley, which was Berklee College of Music in Boston.
You can make a song out of that.
But they spell it differently. So I went to Boston to go to music school in 1973, and I enrolled in the school in... my major was arranging and composition.
At Berkeley?
Yeah.
That's in Boston, is it not?
In Boston, right.
You could make a song like they had one, Harriman.
And then
or something like that.
Yeah.
And you were into jazz.
Well, it was
you were into hip music.
Well, that was a coincidence. I mean, I had already been in bands. I was in a band that was looking at a recording contract, and I just split. I had my hair down to my back and I cut all my hair off, and I went to music school, because I just decided I was disillusioned with it. I wanted to go to music school. I wanted to become a legit musician. Now, wait, help me on this and everything, because you got pop music and you got people, and then you've got classical music. And do the twain meet? What's the situation there? How do they differentiate? I'm still trying to become a
classical and pop and garage bands and all kinds of things that are called music.
At this point, for me, music is something that sounds good. I like it all. If it sounds good,
I do too. I do too.
Really?
I think I do. Yeah.
But legit musicians, I'm in the union. So I belong to a prestigious organization that has members of the New York Philharmonic Orchestra.
Okay.
Jazz at Lincoln Center.
Right.
All the Broadway pit musicians.
Yeah.
And you know.
And you just met somebody last night. You're going to
last night I got some. That
was a big event.
Yeah, I got some really good
news. A real
news.
drummer. What was his name?
I got some really good news last night.
Yeah.
An old colleague of mine, and I'm a big fan of his work too, as thousands of millions of people are.
Yeah.
He's the most recorded drummer in the history of the music business.
And that be
Bernard Purdie.
Purdie.
Yeah, we call
P-U-R-D-Y.
We call him P-U-R-D-I-E.
Purdie,
We call him
that way,
we call him Pretty Purdy is one of his nicknames.
Yeah, Pretty Purdy.
And
That's good.
the other nickname he has is the Hit Maker. You know? And we call Bernard the Hit Maker because he made so many hits, and also he's making hits. You know.
And this would be I see. Yeah, but and he would be known to everybody in the music.
Well, he played on so many records. Especially he's very well known for his 25 years at Atlantic Records, where he played on all the early Aretha Franklin stuff.
Wow.
Nina Simone, Hank Crawford, Ray Charles, James Brown. You know, he did 500 Motown sessions. He's done thousands of records. You know, so Bernard
doing percussion behind.
Yeah, Bernard is playing nightly on the Hair musical revival on Broadway now.
Oh, really? In New York?
And he's doing the matinees and everything. You know,
it's New York, right?
Yeah, here in New York.
So that's how you happened to run into him.
Yeah, and last night I
see, it's good you come back to Gotham.
I know. I love to be here. I love to be a part of this. You know. So
and you did live in Gotham for a while.
Well, I've been here for 35 years now.
You've been here?
Yeah.
Now, wait a minute. I hear, but you're always out somewhere else.
Well,
a lot of the time, but then you get in touch when you get
I've been bi-coastal since 1973.
Bi-coastal. How do you like that?
I love it.
And it's between Bay Area and here? New York? Is that it?
Right.
Okay. Well, that's a pretty
during
good
the
thing.
6 years that I lived in Europe, I lived in Europe for 6 years.
Okay, you picked
so
up
then
a
I
lot
was
then.
more than bi-coastal then, because sometimes I did have to come back to the States. But I spent a good part of 6 years in Europe, you know.
And then when you were in New York, how long you were involved in Access? I think of, and you had that booth.
Yeah, the whole time I was
that
in.
thing.
Yeah,
Jon Hammond show in the booth.
Yeah,
but
and
wouldn't like
I
this,
want to
and
show a
it was
little.
signature
I want to
thing.
show a little taste
you've got
of that.
some clips. Yeah, okay.
I did bring something for. Maybe some of the folks will remember my theme song for my cable access show, which is the Jon Hammond show.
Now, when did that get started? Let's put.
We went on the air the very first time on 23rd Street, February 2nd, 1984.
84. So that's going back a pretty good piece now. We were down on 23rd Street.
And we were in production for that show for months in advance.
Really? For that one show?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Wasn't it a series or something?
Oh, yeah. Well, I was on Fridays at 1:30 p.m. or 1:30 a.m. right before Robin Bird for years. That was my slot. You know?
Yeah, right.
Channel C,
you were
as you know,
in for Robin.
Channel C and D are free. C and D are free, and J you pay. You know?
Right.
And I was on all three.
That would have been teleprompter or something. I think I'm not who it was.
Well, I started out before Robin's show, a 29-minute show.
Robin Bird is, I forget what
she would come on
it.
at 2 a.m. on Friday night. You know, late Friday night, early Saturday morning.
People and stuff.
Yeah, she had more of an adult thing.
Yeah, right.
Mine you can watch with your grandma.
Yes,
you know?
right. And you've always been involved with the accordion, but with very hip music and hip musicians and jazz and all of that, as well as polkas.
Once in a while, you know. That's really not my shtick, you know. But I've been very fortunate. I got to meet so many great musicians, and later on got to play with cats like Bernard Purdie, you know.
Yeah, right.
So we're going to work
and
together.
And you're going to play with them in Anaheim.
Yeah, we used to work together a lot, you know. But the first time I saw Bernard was in an all-star band backing up Aretha Franklin with a special guest star, Ray Charles, Billy Preston. Billy Preston on organ. I mean, that's the first time I saw Bernard play. So then I started working with Bernard a lot about a little over 10 years ago. But we haven't played together for almost 11 years now. And we're going to play a big showcase together at a trade show. Yeah, next month in Anaheim, California, with an all-star band.
You just set that up last night.
Last night.
Okay, good. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
You want to make sure
I'm very excited about this.
You got quite a bit of little film from overall. You were doing the access thing.
I brought
He's a pioneer in access.
I brought a few things along, you know. You think we could take a little
let's see. Why don't you call what you call set it up?
Okay, so I want to set it up.
Let's make sure you get it set up in the booth for the first roll in.
My theme song is called Late Rent. You know,
Late Rent.
And
Late Rent.
Late Rent. You know, a lot of people can relate. A lot of people out there can relate to this nowadays.
Yes, right.
In the financial tsunami,
Right.
So, but at that time, I was always sometimes a little behind my rent, but my landlord would work with me, you know, and so all of a sudden I had
he's running. They're running the tape.
Here we go.
Quick.
Here it is.
Here comes
this is my theme song, everybody.
All right.
And the graphics.
Hello!
That's Lloyd Lindsay Young. You know,
Mr. Hammond!
All right. Try and pump it in.
You got some audio?
Don't talk.
Okay, one second.
Hello, camera.
Backbeat Productions presents The Jon Hammond Show. And now, here he is, your host, the star of the show, Jon Hammond.
Thank you very much. And welcome to the Jon Hammond Show. We've got a fantastic set of original music and video. So crank up the audio, kick back and relax. Here's a tune featuring myself on the organ, along with guitarist Barry Finnerty, drummer Steve Ferroni, and Todd Anderson on saxophone. I paid for that recording session with my rent money. So we like to call it late rent.
Talk a little bit, because you were just saying somebody was doing that syncing up, the visual syncing up on one-inch machine.
That was Laurie. Yeah,
that
video,
was serious.
Video by Laurie.
It wasn't like just throwing a feedback loop on or
hundreds
something.
Of hours of work.
Hundreds of hours of work syncing it up,
yeah.
Right? And so you, in one-inch machine you were
We were using one-inch machines.
That's big machinery.
Yeah, we had a Grass Valley triple re-entry switcher. Chiron, where we had everything, you know. This was a broadcast situation. You know?
Where were you physically doing that?
Well, it was
In your apartment?
a studio that shall still remain unnamed.
All right, if you say so. There must be a backstory to that, which you needn't go into here.
But I guarantee you that it was the same studio that some of the top commercials that you saw on television came out of, like
you used to do it at late night
Buick
hours
and all this sort of things.
3 in the morning when the
when the clients were
away,
go home,
the cats could play.
That's right.
Right.
And we had
some of the first time that's
some of the best best takeout food in the world.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Right.
We had a lot of fun.
That
in
was
there,
really
you know?
good. 84.
Yeah.
That's good. Congratulations. You got
Thank you very much.
You got to get all that stuff. If you put anything up YouTube or archive it and anything.
You know, folks.
Why don't we let them know they're there? Where do you go? YouTube.
You can
Jon
easily
Hammond?
find a lot of my content now on the internet. Since we're living
Isn't
in
that wonderful?
Yeah, we're living in the
Isn't it
future.
unbelievable, the internet. I think the young people take it for granted.
Yeah,
but
you know,
I tell you, it's amazing.
You know, Harold, I've been doing a radio program daily.
I know we're going to get to that. I mean, you're the toast of the Bay Area.
Well, I've been fortunate to have this slot in the mornings, 4 o'clock in the morning, when people should be sleeping.
No, the cats are away.
When they're not sleeping, they come. They listen
they're coming
to
home.
They listen to me, and I put them back to sleep. You know?
Right.
So, but the name of my radio program
It's on CBS,
is
right?
Hammond Cast.
Right.
So I made this word.
Hammond Cast.
That's a one-word thing, you know,
yeah,
like
that's good. That sounds
like
good.
Podcast or broadcast.
Right.
I made Hammond Cast, right? So I own the name the .com, HammondCast.com, and anywhere on the internet, anything that says Hammondcast. So if you drop that into Google or YouTube or any of this stuff, anything that says Hammondcast, it all comes back to me.
All right, good.
And I'm the Jon Hammond with no H because it's short for Jonathan, you know.
John Hammond.
Yeah, so I'm Jon Hammond, you know.
Jonathan.
Right.
Jonathan's your name.
Yeah, actually,
That was the name you were given by your parents?
Right.
Okay, that's really good. And you've been into music, and you've been in touch with so many people. Now, you've been bi-coastal, a long tour.
And then we added Europe to the plan, you know.
Yeah. Never had to do the military, right? You were too young.
I did go down there. I tried to join up in the band, you know.
You wanted to get in the military
But you know what? I got asthma. I have asthma, so they don't want.
I'm sorry,
They don't want any wheezers in there, you know, because you give the whole platoon away, you know.
Yeah.
So I couldn't get in the military, you know.
Oh, and you actually tried.
Well,
I
I protested the Vietnam War. I did,
Thank
you know.
you.
But later on, I did try to get in there because the music program in the military is fantastic.
Yeah.
Because they school the military musicians, and they have some fantastic jazz players. See, we learned in World War II that music is one of our greatest. It's in a way, it's like it's like a weapon, you know. Because you win the hearts and minds of the people through the music, you know.
Yeah.
So they send great players out there, and that's one of the things that I'm working on now. We're going to be putting on some VA shows, you know, at the VA hospitals.
Veteran Administration? Yeah, okay.
Because I've been playing hospitals anyway, so we're working now to bring these shows into the VA hospitals, you know.
But you've also got this you got this radio show, and that's on an AM station
it's
in the Bay Area.
KYOU radio.
Does that get to the whole Bay Area?
Well,
or how far does it get? Or is
it
does. Out of
Berkeley
or what?
Right now, you know, we've been on 1550 AM for a long time, and right now they took our frequency over to some old call letters, which are KFRC.
Okay.
But we kept the whole programming intact, and our fantastic program director, Stephen Page, he's a genius, and he created a thing that was like the model of iTunes before there was iTunes, you know?
Okay, yeah.
And so he's got the whole program intact as KYOUradio.com, and it streams out over the CBS network.
I see,
worldwide. And it's a really great, effective thing because I get feedback from all over the world. I'm
good.
famous in places like Macedonia and stuff I've never been to, you know. And
got,
you know, when I travel, I meet people all the time who have been checking us out through the streaming programs. And then we have the YouTube stuff, and I have video feeds, and it's all going out like it's a new kind of public access TV.
Yeah,
in a way,
it is
you know?
like public access. It's a sister thing. Or the institution coming cyber, they got to learn to develop. But access, cable access, was out there on the frontier before there was a computer in the eye of anybody. They ought to keep that in mind, I would think. It's good to get a link to the historical thing, because public access was the cutting edge of alternative new media in a very real sense, don't you think?
I still think of the whole thing as public access TV, right?
Okay, that's good to think that way, yeah.
Multimedia.
Multimedia, it gets into multimedia and that. And you had radio, you had WBAI we have as a, that kind of thing. Radio.
And the sister station is KPFA.
KPFA, yeah, that's part of the Pacific
And I actually
Network.
went on the air at KPFA in 1959 on a children's show, So I saw the inside of a studio and a big microphone at the age of 5. And then I was bit by the bug,
The bit by the bug of the music or what? Or
I always wanted to be a broadcaster.
broadcaster.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a different kind of thing. I heard you mention Vietnam. You protested. You were raised in Berkeley. Did you know Mario Savio? And
I met Mario Savio.
Free
Jerry
speech?
Rubin. I met all those
Jerry
cats.
Rubin and Abby. You knew Abby?
Didn't meet Abby, but he was around, and I was there for People's Park, and Super Joel, and all these guys were friends of mine,
It was a real happening place, Berkeley.
It was an amazing thing.
And that period was something, wasn't it? That was a really important period in terms of everything, it seems to me. And it's been given bad press by a lot of people who thought it was just sex, drugs, and rock and roll, of which there is quite a bit of, but there were a lot more things going on of significance other than that pejorative that is thrown at it by the people who just can't stand the fact that that even existed, and we had to get over the Vietnam syndrome and get over the whole, whatever that period represented. It was a period, a lost period.
Well,
that should be. A lot of conservatives just can't abide that whole period.
Ronald Reagan was the governor of California then.
I know. I was university professor there when he was.
I don't want to talk ill of somebody who's not with us anymore,
I
but
understand.
he was a lousy governor.
Was he? Yeah.
He was bad,
We gave him a lot of trouble.
And he was... I couldn't believe that he eventually went on to his next job after that. But we really got under his collar in Berkeley because he lost.
What year are you talking? 67?
Yeah, because the People's Park thing was all over a vacant dirt lot. That was property of the university.
I was a professor at Long Beach College of University of California, and we closed the school down.
Right.
Over him, he wanted to censor art, and we got them together and closed the school down.
He called out the National Guard.
Yeah.
He called out
the
California Highway Patrol. He sent everybody to Berkeley, and they were tear gassing us, and using the same military equipment that they were using in Vietnam on the people of the United States, even. And it was just so outrageous that even our parents were outraged.
Yeah.
And out of this kind of outrage, it sparks creative movement.
Don't forget there was that was when we had the Woodstock Festival.
Right,
right
at that time.
That was a huge thing.
And then we had our thing, which was Altamont, which I was at Altamont.
Well,
with the Rolling
Altamont
Stones.
was a different turn of
there
the
were
dice,
some hard lessons learned by Altamont.
They turned things over to the Angels, Hell's Angels, or something.
That was not a good idea.
No, it really went down. There was Watkins Glen after Woodstock, but Woodstock was 600,000 people, and no violence. And all of them there, and it was an epiphany. It was something else. It was really, and it was signaling. Walked on the moon right then. There were all kinds of things that were going. That period was signaling something in a very large sense that can be picked up by artists. Artists are the antenna of the race. They can pick something up. It's blowing in the wind, Bobby Dylan said, and it was. And that was a period of which we could still hearken back to as one that was signaling something beyond what we are able to conceive of or see. But it was a moment of a qualitative change going on that the artist picked up on. It was really creative. I think it was. Maybe that's just us, older, thinking that way. The kids don't remember, but it really was something else.
You still carry the spirit with you. I mean, that was a magic time.
It does. Thank you. I like that word. Yeah, it really was. There was something going on in the zeitgeist or in the universe. And there was something qualitatively different going on. And the conservatives that have sort of more or less come into the driver's seat after Reagan and Bush and so forth, but who they just look at it as a thing that was just an aberration or something, and it was a negative thing And I think they're dead wrong on that. I
Well,
think
now
we ought to
all the
recover
people,
the memory of
the
that
people who
period.
still carry that spirit, it's a nation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it became a nation.
Woodstock
it's huge.
Nation,
You know,
yeah,
that's right. We just had the 40th anniversary of
That's
Woodstock.
right.
You
That's
know,
right. Yeah.
so you know,
And you were part of that. All
I
along.
was, and
you were
I-
always that. And you were also tuned into jazz.
I got into jazz. You know, I mean, I had a rock band. I had really long hair. I got more into jazz. I always enjoyed like Miles Davis and the Crusaders, and Cannonball Adderley was another one of my favorites. You know, but when I went to Boston to music school,
Yeah, you went there. To
I started
become
working 7 nights a week in these mafia striptease clubs. You know?
Okay, what's that? I mean,
Well-
mafia striptease. I didn't know.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. What's
There was
that?
a part of Boston called the Combat Zone.
Okay.
And there was a mafia that was a council of like...
Italian?
No, it was actually, it was about 13 different mafias that shared this thing, you know.
Boy,
Yeah.
you got a whole.
And,
You got
I mean,
the
I-
making of a bunch of motion.
I was on the
pictures there.
bandstand, you know. I wore dark prescription glasses, so
Okay,
I
right.
basically didn't see...
Wear them boots you
yeah,
had in there?
I did,
You
actually.
used to wear
I
those
wore
boots,
Beatles
huh?
boots, you know.
Yeah, right, yeah.
I didn't see anything. I was on the bandstand playing
Yeah,
the
you can't
music,
play
you
with
know.
all the lights, yeah.
You know, but I got paid in cash every Friday by
Yeah.
this guy named Teddy Venus, you know.
Yes.
And he was a
Teddy brought
yeah,
the
he was
cash,
a
Venus, yeah.
classic mobster,
Right,
you know.
right.
And the battle cry down there in the combat zone where I was working, and I was the house organist at the world famous 2 O'Clock Club, you know, was continuous.
World famous what?
The world famous 2 O'Clock
2 o'clock club.
yeah, on
Okay.
Washington Street.
Okay, I didn't
Some
know
of you
that.
folks out there might remember
might
it.
know. Some
you
of
might
them.
have been there. You might not want to admit that you've been
Might
there.
have read about it
But
in some magazine.
we had high-end politicians would come in there. Kids from BU would come in there, you know. And
Take it, that's 2 a.m.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, we started
When
the
things
live.
get going,
we
yeah.
started the live music at 2 p.m. and we
Yeah.
played through to 2 a.m.
Okay, sounds
And
like
there were long hours that we played. There were
Right.
2 bands that rotated. You know?
Right.
But the battle cry of this place was continuous entertainment. You know.
Okay.
And when we say continuous entertainment, we really mean continuous entertainment.
Pick
because
out the jams.
Teddy was sitting up in his office. He had an intercom that came up from the bandstand.
Right.
You had to play from one song into the next. They call that segue, you know. And if you didn't segue, if there was a break in between the music for any reason, even 10 seconds,
You were
know,
in deep doo-doo, huh?
he would come in over that intercom and he'd say, "What the hell's going on down there? Make it more lively."
Yeah, right.
They just
We're
wanted,
losing them.
yeah,
We're losing them.
they just wanted to hear a sound coming
Yeah,
out of the
right,
speaker,
right,
you know.
right.
And so we had these dancers that we would back up, you know.
Uh-huh.
And they'd come, some of them would be fresh in the business. They'd come in with their arrangements. Some of them would pull out these arrangements, you know, like 35 pages. Can you play this? Oh, yeah, sure, honey, no
Sure,
problem.
Yeah.
It was continuous entertainment here. Let's
Wouldn't it
go,
be
you know.
great, man? You could
So
have,
we-
if you had some of that on film, it'd be an
Oh,
Academy
man,
Award
no,
winner.
they
If you
didn't-
could have captured it
They
on
didn't
film.
like cameras down there.
No,
That's
right,
right.
right, yeah.
But we hit it and quit it every night, 7 nights a week. It was really a magical time, too, you know. And it was a
Yeah.
great training ground. What happened was the music teachers from Berklee College of Music all started coming down and sitting in with me down there at the 2 o'clock, you know.
Yeah.
So then I was thinking, like, my teachers are coming down to play with me. What do I need to be in school for, you know? So eventually I started falling asleep in class, and after about a year I dropped out of music school.
Right.
But,
That'd
you
be
know,
interesting, yeah.
I think it's a great thing to go to music school.
Yeah, we're going to have to do...
Okay, we're going to run a little bit.
Well, that's it. The problem is it's too interesting. You got another tape, right?
I got another tape.
Yeah, now what is the second one? You could
Could-
maybe
what do
set
you
it
think?
up
Could-
and everything. Is it
yeah,
out
I'd
of
like to-
sync? Or we've only
much time have we got?
We only got about 12 minutes left.
12 minutes?
14 minutes left.
Well,
So
okay, I just want to say that, you know,
running the tape now. Here it is.
this guy's speaking.
Und das schon 52 Jahre. Und ich bin besonders glücklich, dass wir den Jon und seine Band mal wieder haben, denn sein erster Auftritt in Europa fand auch im Jazzkeller statt. Also, Sie haben gerade so ungefähr $400-500 gespart. Den Flug nach New York. Also, Hammond Groove, Rhythm and Blues, Jazz und mit dem richtigen schönen Großstadt-Feeling einer Stadt, die noch ein bisschen höher ist als unser. Willkommen, Jon and Band.
on Shane Organ and Guten Abend Frankfurt. It's really wonderful to be back here in the Jazz Kelly. This is my erster Platz here in Frankfurt, and for a lot of jazz musicians. And we're going to take you back a few years with a great bluesy composition by the great Bobby Timmons and start the program off with the thing called Own It.
Okay. That's good. We're in the holiday season. You get some party. We got a party tomorrow. And
Yeah.
That's good. That's in Germany. You're
Yeah,
going
and
again.
Joe, the guitar player,
You're
he'll
going
be there.
to Germany next week.
Next
You're really
week,
moving
yeah.
around a lot.
Yeah,
right?
I just got back.
How
I just
often
got back from Australia.
I
I want to show the folks I got an Australian hat.
Yeah, put it
you know?
on. Put it on.
You know, I got this.
That really looks
I got
good.
this in Melbourne,
that looks
Australia.
good, everybody. What do you think, Hank? I think that really looks good.
All
I
right.
think that's, you got to wear
Thanks
that.
a lot.
You're
But-
looking good.
But Harold, I always got to say,
Yeah.
my hat's off to you, man.
Old cut
You're the
it.
man.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
So
right,
anyway,
really.
but it's hot down there right now. It's
in
cold
Australia,
here,
it's the opposite.
but it was
yeah.
summertime down there. And
What
next
were you doing
next
in
week,
Australia? I mean, you had a gig?
I played one concert and I did a keynote presentation about the Hammond organ. you
Oh,
know?
really?
Yeah, I did.
Keynote presentation
Keynote
about
presentation.
the Hammond
Yes.
organ.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It was complete with a presentation with images that showed in back of me,
and where'd
something
you
like
present
Steve
that?
Jobs,
Where'd
you know.
yeah, right.
My
Where'd
own
you
version.
present? Where'd you present it?
At a little theater in a big music store there called Bernie's Music Land. You know, and Bernie was very kind to invite me there. I met Bernie in Germany, and at this trade show where we play every year. This will be my 24th year in a row to play there.
And that's where you're going to Germany next week.
Next week I'm out there.
Okay, I'm glad we got you in town and caught you.
But
while
this
you're
is
coming
just like a
through.
preliminary trip.
This is like Union Square.
I'm going to be in
subway
Frankfurt.
stop.
I'm going to Frankfurt for 1 day.
1 day
for
an event.
Yeah, but then I got to come right back for another
you handle
gig.
all your booking yourself and you don't
Everything.
have an agent.
You're looking at the booking agent.
You're it. You look at Jon Hammond.
My
you got
favorite
the whole
booking
thing.
agent. You
My
know,
favorite booking
he comes
agent.
with me everywhere.
Yeah,
You know?
it's interesting the history of the Hammond organ. I was talking to somebody the other day. I was you. I don't know, but the piano. They had a thing on Odyssey. It's a great channel. They got great programming on their cultural channel, and they had a thing about the history of the piano and that the invention of the piano. It goes back to I don't know pre or just around Beethoven,
right?
Baroque, but he produced things. And the piano was at a certain level in terms of where it was going. And now we got all these other things. But he had subtleties in the composition that the piano of the time when he was composing it could not render. And 60 years later or something, when it was improved to where it could handle it, it got to be where it could really understand all the nuance that was intrinsic to the composition. Can you understand?
Yeah.
What an interesting technological thing that is.
A lot of the things that
the same with the Hammond and other instruments.
Well, the
also.
piano hasn't changed really. There's a few innovations.
Well, it changed from when it was
yeah.
it was more primitive, and it couldn't bring out the nuance that it was able to as it got more developed.
It's more streamlined now, but it's basically the same sort of hammer design.
Well, perhaps I don't know. No, the sound
but
and the capability.
The organ that I'm playing.
It's a metaphor for technology.
Yeah, the organ that I'm playing, it came into being in 1934. The very first model was the Model A, but from Lawrence Hammond. You know? And he was a clockmaker.
Really?
Yeah, he invented
I can see that connection.
He invented the tickless clock. You know.
Tickless.
Yeah, and so folks, you know, if you ever see a Hammond clock out there,
get it.
If you plug it in and it doesn't work, the reason why is you have to spin this post in the back. And you have to get the motor up to speed, right?
And then it'll go
and then
forever?
it takes over, and then the sweep second hand comes around. Those are beautiful clocks. I have a collection of them myself.
Do you really? Yeah. Because it's
and that motor is what runs the tone generators in the Hammond organ that gives it its very special sound.
Oh, got a special sound.
Right.
Is there? You got a Kurzweil? Do you work with a Kurzweil?
No, you know.
Or you don't work Kurzweil.
You know, Harold, with my name. I can't play Yamaha, and I can't play.
I guess if they had a Channer organ, I'd play the sucker. Yeah, for sure. Hammond organ, and it's a kind.
But they have a new one. The one I played in Australia is a digital new B3. It's called, and it goes for about $30,000, and it's worth every penny. You know?
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. What's so good about it?
The thing that's great about it is it sounds like the old one, and it feels like the old one.
Yeah,
and they stopped manufacturing them in 1975.
Yeah.
So they're back now with a new version of it. It sounds wonderful.
So you got all the instruments to bring out what it is you want to do. There's no, we don't need.
I'm very fortunate. I love I'm very satisfied with my instruments. You know, a lot of musicians are constantly striving to get new things, and you know, if I don't get another instrument for the rest of my life,
you got what you need.
I'm cool. I got everything.
That's cool. You're cool. You're looking really good and natty, and you've been at it, and you're a pioneer of public access, and you're really on the move and so forth. Glad you're going to come to our party.
Thanks,
tomorrow.
Harold. It's a big honor to be here.
And what we have to say, we got a couple minutes left and so forth. It's really interesting. So good to see you as a pioneer of that. And you called to attention like James Dennison Smith, who did a program, one of our fellow producers, and he brought all the sub-channels that are available on the television. You had brought that to my attention last time we saw you some months ago.
There are some new outlets.
There's a lot of new outlets, and you know what it has a certain metaphoric quality to, is that there's so many channels and ways. It's an abundant. Chris Stringer, he's the editor of Wired magazine, talking about the technology. He said he had an article that got a lot of play, and there was another thing. He said tech is too cheap to monitor. we've got to start managing for abundance, not scarcity, which is a very interesting concept as we start looking at the whole macroeconomy and the whole evolution of world society and so forth. We're at a time of qualitative transformation of some sort that is really significant, and it's a privilege to be alive at this particular time in the broader evolution of historical development, don't you think? It's a time of, I mean, if you go back to Woodstock and you go through, living through this period, you could have lived in the 6th century. It took months, decades to invent a tack. Now there's a revolution coming in from every field every day.
Right.
You know, it's an incredibly transformative time.
You know,
for those who are artistic or interested or part of the antenna of the race that are feeling things out, this is a really creative time.
Nobody could articulate it like you, except Harold Chandler. You're the man, Harold.
No.
No, really,
I mean,
because
it's true.
It's a almost impossible thing to articulate, you know, and I know exactly what you're saying, because, you know, it all gets back to that global village thing that you were telling me about.
Well, that's McLuhan brought that up, and James Joyce was great.
Right.
He could really he could render the implications of the technology.
And now it's really happening with the internet.
Yeah,
and
I know.
The whole thing, you know, people are cutting the cables. You know, we're cable access broadcasters.
But they're linked. Yeah.
It's coming in now through satellites, through telephones, everything, you know.
Yeah, I know.
So we're
happening,
it's coming
to a crescendo. It's like in evolution. If you can go to a thing, evolution is change within the evolutionary process itself. You have quantitative change, and then there's a quickening, and there's what they call punctuated equilibrium. The new appears.
Right.
Something new. There was Australopithecine before Homo sapien, 200,000 years. We're on the verge of coming into a new relationship, almost like
it's an exciting time.
Yeah, and it's almost comparable to like speciating or birth. To a new way of being that is intrinsic to the situation. And we live in a generation where that's intrinsic. Well, one thing we have to do, John, now is to the audience. Look to the audience, and we have to say, Happy holiday season,
everybody.
In the year 2009. Glad we were able to bring a little musical cheer.
And New Year's 2010.
By having Jon Hammond, a fellow public access producer, musician, bon vivant, looking very, very good, traveling all over the world and still keeping it up. And happy Christmas season. This will be airing, I guess, on the 22nd of December, and happy holiday to one and all.
Special thanks to the crew, Josh and Suzanne and Melanie and everybody here.
Who filled in and everything. And so, John, thanks so much for coming in. Thanks for living such a very well-led life. And it shows, because it's all in your continence, and you've got a very, very, you're a very, very important person here in terms of bringing, understanding of an artistic
thanks so much, Harold.
To the human condition.
You're the man.
Well, you're the man. We're all, and it's there. So thanks for viewing. We'll be coming back again tomorrow. Thanks for all the crew for putting it together.
Thanks,
so we can chat a little bit until the camera goes out.
MNN TV lives for everybody.
Yeah, it does. MNN's a great place. They got a great community of people here and everything.
And you're a great
organizer. Public access was pioneer. There wasn't anything about the people before there was public access, because it had a thing, and that's the best spirit that Chris Anderson and others have of all the cyber development, and they can bring them together for the benefit of all. So I don't know. I think we must be out by now, John, and they've just not gone to black, because we've gone over the 58 minutes, and so...
well, we never run out of things to talk about.
No, we could keep talking for decades. I could talk to you for decades,
That's
brother. So
good
to see you. There we go to black now. Okay, now we got to get this.
All right.
And we got to get to the copying and then the other guest.
Thanks a lot, Harold. That was really a lot of fun. I love talking. It stimulates me to talk to you,
Yeah, well, it's
Some
good
cats